And if we'd had Peter Cranie, MEP, we wouldn't have had Nick Griffin, MEP. And so the tactical decision that we made to withdraw in the northwest of England and support the Green Party was potentially extremely important. Unfortunately, there was another group invented very close to the election, with a name chosen apparently randomly out of the hat, and not a very good one, called No to EU. They insisted upon standing in every constituency. Everyone. Some of our members, Nick Rack amongst them, in the vanguard, in fact, thought that we should have supported them. The majority of us said no. In the northwest of England, it's critical that Griffin is defeated, and the best placed candidate to defeat him is the Green. Some people think the Greens are not really on the left, but that's because they're guilty of looking left instead of looking right. Because in my view, the Greens have support which dwarfs, absolutely dwarfs, the fragments of the far left at which some of our people spend so much time and energy looking. Now, I'll be quite clear. No to EU objectively helped Nick Griffin into the European Parliament. Without consultation with the people who knew the Northwest best, if they'd listened to the Greens and us and others in the Northwest, it wouldn't have happened. They could still have stood elsewhere, and not in the Northwest, but they followed a dogmatic, schematic approach, so characteristic of Britain's far left. And that's what I'm opposed to. Now we hear there's another group invented close to the next election with a name not even yet chosen, and unlikely, given the track record, to be an even a better name than No to EU was. And I promise you, it will adopt the same dogmatic and schematic approach to this question of elections. And I'm against it. You see, we already are a coalition. Look at the banners. Respect. The Unity Coalition. Let's try and get our own coalition into Parliament in sufficient numbers to make an impact before we start looking to make other coalition. So, dutifully, people came up here and said, yes, we must have as a priority the getting of 3 Respect MPs, and as a priority the building of another coalition. But if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. If you're spending your time building a broader coalition across the country, you're not spending that time getting the 3 MPs. And whilst Sam was right on paper, we've all voted through these resolutions. To some people, the words mean different things than they do to others, and certainly others have different weights that they wish to put upon them. I like for the Morning Star, that's true, Ian. I don't think the Communist Party is irrelevant, but it is electorally irrelevant, and it's been electorally irrelevant for 60 years. And I'll tell you what, it's not going to help us get 3 MPs to say that we're the partners of the Communist Party of Britain. You might wish that that was true. I wish that it was true. But it isn't true. As a matter of fact, being in a coalition with the Communist Party of Britain will cost us votes in some parts of the electorate in which we're seeking votes. That's the reality. revolution has allowed us to gloss over it. Alan Thornton, whom I respect a great deal, is the only leader of a Trotskyist group that I do respect, if I'm being absolutely honest. He was right and corrected me earlier. It's not just where the candidate can win that we should support. It has to be more flexible than that. There may well be circumstances in which, I don't know, I doubt that David Nellis can win against Bob Ainsworth, but it must be right to support David Nellis, both because of who he is and because of who Bob Ainsworth is. That must be right to support him. So it's not just where the candidate can win. But let's be honest. This new group, if it ever gets off the ground, if it ever gets a name, if the unions whose general secretaries were at the table last Saturday actually do, and there's an if in every one of those questions, Britain's prison warders, in my experience of 25 years nearly of elected public life, are not left-wing progressives. Their general secretary might be, but the screws in Britain's jails, the last time I looked, were not left-wing progressives that we should be scampering after to get into a coalition with them. Ask the Irish Republican prisoners if the warders that were looking after them were left-wing progressives. Ask the Muslims and the blacks in British jails if the screws looking after them are left-wing progressives. So I'm not so sure that Brian Caton's prison warders union will be backing his idea of a left-of-Labour coalition full of communists and Trotskyists. I've got my doubts. We'll see if I'm right or if I'm wrong. The RMT has not and may not support this idea. I'll go as far as to say I believe the Fire Brigade Union will not support this idea. That's my prediction. See if I'm right or if I'm wrong. But even if such an organisation is put up, in the vast majority of constituencies in the country, it will not be able to find the candidates and the finance and above all the votes to be a meaningful contender in those elections. And therefore we come back to Alistair's question earlier today. The first thing that I dealt with when I came into the room. In a contest where in the vast majority of constituencies the choice will be between Cameron and Osborne and the Etonian right-wing Conservative Party and the hideously flawed Labour Party, we should be saying vote Labour. Because if we are guilty of helping the Tories into a landslide victory, then there's no point in us looking to the right. Because those Labour voters and Labour members will say, why should we listen to you? You helped the Tories into power. And that's what we should avoid at all